Hello and welcome to Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. I'm your host, Harrison Greenbaum. This show is presented by the International Brotherhood of Magicians. And if you're not already a member, I don't know how that's even possible. We've been doing 35 episodes. This is episode number 35. You just go to magician.org/join-IBM/join. They've done incredible stuff during this pandemic. They do incredible stuff before the pandemic. But we've been putting out content. There's this show, Who Books That? There's also the IBM Jam Live. There's a new weekly show where they go inside the Linking Ring magazine. So definitely check out magician.org. And if you want to become a member or renew your membership, magician.org/join-IBM/join. This show is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We took a brief break, and there's going to be a break because next week is the day before Christmas. Or so I'm told. I'm a Jew. But I hear it's a big day for the not Jews. That is the day before Christmas, and the Wednesday after that is the day before New Year's Eve. So we will be taking a break. So this is your last episode in 2020, and what an insane year it's been. I'll be honest, when I started this back in March, I really thought, wow, we'll do this for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then we'll all be back to normal. And now 35 episodes later, we're here. It's been an incredible journey filled with a lot of memorable moments. The very first episode, Mac King, an unbelievable way to kick this series off with a surprise guest of Lance Burden, who would eventually become a future guest later on down the road, and be surprised by Elaine Boozler, who they performed for the Queen together. I am now a big fan of The Crown. Everything is coming full circle. I've been slimed by Mark Summers. We had Neil deGrasse Tyson drop in to surprise Larry Wilmore. David Williamson had about 7 different surprise guests. I think that might have been the record. Matt Franco's grandmother learned how to use her iPad to be on the show. So a huge thank you to all of the magicians. We have had 34 featured guests, now going to be 35. And there's been tons of surprise guests. So we featured over 100 magicians from all over the planet, although mostly United States, Canada, and England. It's been an incredible ride, and the podcast version of this show, which is available still and will be on Apple Music. Go to whobookthat.com. You can click a link, go straight to the Apple Music store. You can also watch all the previous episodes right there from that website. It's also available on Pandora now. It's available on Amazon, Google Play, anywhere you get your podcast. This is available, and crazily enough, thanks to your support. All the positive reviews, the 5-star reviews, just people downloading and subscribing. It is in the top 100 performing arts podcasts in, I believe, 9 countries around the world, including the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, which is also a continent, fun trivia, Japan, Denmark, Sweden, Germany. Unbelievable. So thank you guys so much for your support. Could not do this without you. And a huge thanks to everybody who's already said hello. We have somebody coming in from Portland, Oregon. Hi, Ian. We got Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, Don. We got Ron West from Gulf Breeze, Florida, and another Floridian as well. Dan Irwin is in Kissimmee, Florida. Thank you guys so much. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Harrison Comedy. But let's get this show started. I am so excited for this guest. What a great way to round out the year. I've been a huge fan of his, and that's before I even found out he was a magician. One of my favorite shows of all time, Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was Crazy Eyed Killer. Fantastic. Unbelievable. He was Hoover in Silicon Valley. He was in Upload. Heartbreaking. He went from comedy to The Father. I don't want to spoil anything, so just watch it. It's called Upload, and it's on Amazon. He has appeared in tons of television and tons of movies. He is also an incredible magician. He's a magician member of the Academy of Magical Arts. We're going to talk about it. I'm so excited. Coming to you all the way from the opposite coast, the West Coast. Make some noise. Get excited. It's Chris Williams, everybody. Chris, how you doing?
Oh, for your Japanese watchers, konbanwa, watashi wa Williams desu. Hajimemashite, dozo yoroshiku.
Do you know Japanese?
That's the only thing I know in Japanese. Don't tell anybody. That's not it's just how to greet. I've been there twice. That's the only thing I learned.
That's amazing. It's weird. I did not know how we could be so high up in the Japanese ranks. When this was the first example of Japanese ever spoken on the show.
They love magic. Japanese love magic. There's some great magicians, great Japanese magicians
unbelievable.
as well. I know.
And we talked about it a little bit. We had Steve Cohen on the show who learned a lot of magic and apprenticed in Japan.
Who I went to high school with.
Wait, what? I've done a ton of research that did not come up. Were you guys in the same grade?
Huh? No, he was 2 years behind me, I believe. 2 years behind me. But I'm a big Steve Cohen fan.
You grew up in Westchester, New York, which is also where he grew up.
Exactly. We went to the same high school, Horace Greeley High School.
So he was doing magic back then, for sure, because I have pictures of him doing magic at magic camp at that age. Were you into magic at that point?
I could just do like 2 tricks, 2 little things, but I wasn't really into magic. I mean, I went to go see Blackstone on Broadway. I saw Doug Hunting on Broadway. So I saw some big magic shows, and I always loved magic. But in terms of doing it, I never really started really being serious about it until later. So in my 40s.
But you have a very artistic family, right? Your parents were both music instructors. Here's a lovely picture of the family.
Yep.
And you know a couple of instruments. Here's one of the instruments that you play.
Oboe, yes. And my sister plays French horn. Yep. My parents are both music teachers.
And when you were starting out, did you think you were going to be a musician, or was that just a fun thing that you did with the family?
Well, we were required to take instruments all the way through high school. So my parents were always been performing Baroque choirs. They were conducting things, and they always had bands and stuff. So we were required to take instruments, and we had always been exposed to the arts, being so close to New York, going to Broadway shows all the time, seeing great performances, and performing ourselves. So I did my first play was in nursery school when I got bitten by the bug, playing the mop that married the Raggedy Ann doll. And I was I can get it women like, I mean, I get to hold hands with them. I was like, oh, wait a second, there's something to this. So it was my first play. And then I did plays all through high school and middle school and high school. And I did a couple of theatrical things in college, but I was mostly concentrated on other things in college. So it was fun.
What was your major?
I was a psychology major at Georgetown.
I was a psychology major as well. Look at us both using that psychology. We're just
trying to figure out why we would want
psychologists.
Exactly. So it was. So I didn't do a lot of magic then. I mean, I knew a couple things, but I didn't really start doing it until I actually took some classes up at the castle, the Magic Castle.
And you're now a magician member, so you're a huge success story.
Yeah, I got for my 40th birthday. I had gone up there a couple times, and I was always one of the first shows that I saw was Richard Turner, and I was just blown away. I was just blown away, and I always had an interest in it. And for my birthday, for my 40th, my lady got me a class at the castle, and I was like so excited just to be in class again. But I was like, teach me magic, like teach me, like having a. I was like, and it was Dave Thorson, who was 80 at the time when he taught there for a long time, and I learned some basic things, and then I became obsessed, and I was like, okay, well now I have to become a member. So then I was like looking on YouTube and reading books and doing everything, and came up with a good repertoire, and had and my test was. Ice McDonald was in there. Shoot Ogawa was in there, and like 2 or 3 other people. And I fooled Ice on my 3-card Monty, which was good. But so I just became like obsessed with it. Once I decided to do something, I decided to really do it.
Well, how nerve-wracking was that audition? I mean, was that one of the most nervous you've been, or were there other things or was that for you at that point? You've auditioned for so many things, you kind of knew how to go in there.
I am a performer, and you know what it's like to be a performer. So I kind of knew what I had to do in terms of. I was just worried about my handling, making sure that my presentation was going to be good, but as long as my handling of my things, I did a Monty. That I learned Di Vernon's Monty. I saw him do it and learned it from watching it on YouTube. And I did Aces. Whose Aces was that? And I did this and that. I did this and that. So those are my 3 skill tricks that I was practicing, and And it's such an amazing environment up there at the castle. I'm really anxious to see what's going to happen in the next year, or how we're going to be able to deal with, having people come in and seeing magic. It's one of the most magical places on earth, just for the atmosphere, and everyone has to be dressed up. It's a harkens back to the olden days when you had to dress up and you had to be presentable, and you're not allowed to take your tie off, and you can, and women are, and you have a beautiful dinner, and it's just a really sophisticated, wonderful evening, and seeing some unbelievable performances. I've seen some of the greats, incredible performances up there. So,
I mean, Richard Turner is a great way to start. Although you know who's never seen Richard Turner? Richard Turner.
I know exactly. Exactly.
We had him on the show. He was a surprise for Banachek. They toured together with a scam show that was epic. Who else would you say are your magic influences? Who would be in that melting pot that makes up you as a magician? I
like Mike Peixoto, who's up at the castle all the time. He's a friend of mine. He's incredible. Andrew Goldenhirsch. Yeah, his simplicity. What I loved about him is his simplicity. He only did, like, in the close-up gallery, like 4 illusions maybe, but they were so beautiful. I was like, wow. So, what I love about it, I love Zabrecki. I love, of course, I'm blanking on half the people that I love, but like David Blaine and the bigger ones too, Penn and Teller. But what I love about magic is there's so many different facets to it, and you can be one type of magician and then another type of magician, but yet still be magicians. The spectrum of what a magician is so broad. It's so beautiful, between comedy and magic, like yourself, and Zabrecki, which is kind of mystical and weird, and even Max Maven, like people, mentalism. There's just so many paths of what kind of magician you can be, that it's a wonderful art. It's really a wonderful art.
Yeah, I mean, it's I imagine also you bring a lot of talents to bear on your magic, because I going through your IMDb and just your whole career, it's unbelievable. I have some highlights. This was the first appearance I think I have of you on television is EMT Paramedic number 1 on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Exactly, yes. And that's my sister. She was giving birth with Will Smith. Yeah, it was fun.
And Fresh you look Prince. Very concerned. It's a very good job.
Exactly. With hair, mind you.
That's right. We have actually, you played your sister, or a version of your sister. With
yes, I did. That's the last time I'll ever wear a dress and heels. Yes, that is the last time.
You looked great, though. I mean, I gotta say.
Well, look, 2 hours of makeup every morning, and I did the World's Fastest Indian with Anthony Hopkins, where I was in drag, and that was for my first experience of, like, I mean, if I was gonna wear a drag to be in a movie opposite 8 scenes with Anthony Hopkins, that's like a dream come true. And so I got 5 hours of waxing. I did my chest, my back, my arms, my legs, and my pits. And 5 out. Do you know how much that hurts? I had to get drunk. I was like laid out on the table, 5 hours of waxing, and I was. And then wearing
the whole time, were you just thinking, I get to be with Anthony Hopkins? I get to be Sir Anthony Hopkins. I was like, gonna be worth it.
A lot of it was really for the character. I wanted to be as close to if I'm playing a transvestite or in the 60s, really, who had to embrace being what it was like to be gay, as well as to being, it was a made up character, but it was by Roger Donaldson. But I wanted to get as close to being as feminine as I could, even though I'm a man. So I mean, I have these big arms in my dress, but I always like smaller, like be smaller, be smaller. So I was really understanding what a woman goes through a lot of times with feeling big and feeling, I just wanted to be smaller and smaller and smaller. And I had a friend of mine teach me how to walk in some 5-inch heels. So I was practicing up and down, and then my boys would come over to watch football, and I'd have like, come on guys, I have my heels on. They're like, yo, you got to take those off, man. You got to take those.
What's harder, walking in heels or a double lift? What was harder to learn?
Definitely walking in heels.
Also, you scrub a double lift, you don't fall on your face.
But so I really wanted to be close to as close as I can. So it was a really interesting experience to be dressed in drag. So when I did it with my sister, if I was ever going to do it again, it would be opposite my sister on TV on Ugly Betty. And so I already knew the tricks to put exactly birdseed and pantyhose. Birdseed and pantyhose make the greatest boobs. I was feeling my boobs like so. I was like, wow, these are really like, yeah, and they feel like they're great. So that was a lot of really fun experience to do that as well.
I love that. I love that there's always, in any industry, there's always like a technique that you wouldn't know unless you've been in those shoes.
Right.
Birdseed would not be the first thing. If I've ever touched a boob, my first thought is never, birdseed.
The craziest part on World's Fastest Indian was that I was in full drag, and Anthony Hopkins says, "Hey, I wrote some music." He was composing music. He's like, "Right, you want to come listen to it?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course." So I'm sitting in Anthony Hopkins' trailer, listening to music he wrote in full drag, going, "What is going on with my life right now?" Like, you could have never predicted this whole situation, and it was an amazing experience. Just grilling him. I mean, being in every scene with him, I was just like, ask questions, like think of questions, like, what would you want to ask if you were stuck in a car with Anthony Hopkins for 8 different scenes? What would you want to? So I was grilling him about everything, and he's such a warm, wonderful, giving actor as well as human. He was just unbelievable. Such a wonderful experience.
Was there any gem you could share? Was there any piece of advice that you're like, man, that made it all worth it?
Well, he told me the story about when he was a kid. He was so enamored with Charlie Chaplin. He wrote Charlie Chaplin a letter, and Charlie Chaplin wrote him back. And I was like, "Do you have the letter? Do you have the letter?" He's like, No, my mother threw it out. But ironically, 50 years later, he was on the set of Chaplin when he found out that he was nominated for Silence of the Lambs, which he eventually won for, which is a kind of a weird like thing, how it all comes back around. But I was like, he was telling me stories about Laurence Olivier and he was just amazing. It was such a great experience.
It's like when you talk to the older magicians and they were like, "Oh yeah, I was hanging out with Thurston," or you're like, "Wait, what?"
Right, exactly.
Like, you knew who did it? How did this happen?
Exactly.
And talking about full circle, you went from watching Broadway shows to being Broadway Bill.
Yes, and Friday After Next, exactly, playing a crackhead.
And then there's obviously Crazy Eye Killers, which that's not only a hard acting role, but a lot of that stuff has to be improvised as well, right?
Well, the whole show is improvised, actually. So I went in as I did a sketch comedy show called Hype on the WB network back in the day, and the casting director who cast me in it knew I could do a Master P impression. And her husband, her name is Marla Garland. Her husband, Jeff Garland, is on Curb. That's how I got the audition.
Amazing.
And Sticky Fingers, Ghostface Killer, Mike Epps, like all these they all went in for this role of playing a gangster rapper. And I was like, I was obviously from Westchester, New York, I'm not a gangster rapper. So I was doing all my research and trying to get as close as I could, and I, to what I would be, how hard that I could be as a gangster rapper. So I had a fake tattoo on my arm that said Wolf, and I had fangs, and I put brown contacts in. I have blue eyes, so I put brown contacts in, and I called myself the Wolf Man. So I was like, oh, like I'd be so I went into the audition. I left my house looking like a gangster, like, driving, and I went into the wrong office, and I was like, yeah, what's up? How you doing? I'm looking for Curb Your Enthusiasm. They're like, yeah, it's down the hall. I was like, yeah, thanks a lot. So I was like, oh, it's working, And then the audition is the only other thing for the audition was talk to Larry, and then you're at your engagement party and have a conversation with Larry and say that you like eating, and you can't live without it. And that was it. Wow. So I went in there and I just you riff with Larry and you just start talking back. I was like, your name's Larry David Larry. You got 2 first names. I like that. Where'd you get that? It's like, my dad. I was like, I like that. I like that 2 first names, So and then we got on set, and I was only 3 scenes. It was only 3 scenes in the whole episode, but it's made such an impact And I got to, flourish and just do my improv thing. And he was so gracious and so easy to work with, so it was fantastic, and it really changed the trajectory of my career, my acting career.
Yeah, one of the things I was rewatching it actually today in preparation, and I hadn't noticed before, but he wears a Jewish star, the character.
Exactly. No, I'm see there's small little details like that. Yeah, exactly.
Was that something you chose?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, everything you see is that I chose, so you could actually have something to talk about. You know what I mean? So if I could say this, like, because I was talking about how all my lawyers were Jews, and how I'm down with the Jews because this and the other, and then an ironic thing is Lenny Kravitz became a huge fan of Crazy Eyes, and I met him one time, and my friend was his photographer, and he said they invited me down to the Bahamas, so I flew down to the Bahamas and stayed at Lenny Kravitz's place for about 4 days, and we filmed our own Curb episode.
Oh wow!
And it's a great little thing. We never released it, but I had my Star of David, and I got scared in a room in one of the scenes we shot, and there was a mezuzah on the wall, and I started rubbing it because I got so scared, and I decided that Crazy Eyes was going to convert to Judaism.
Nice.
So I was going to be doing Fiddler on the Roof of my car, like matchmaker, find me a bitch, and like remake the whole thing. So
I would absolutely go see that show.
It was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And just go through all the roles. I mean, Hoover was fantastic. That's you being very serious. That's you being slightly less serious.
Yes.
We have The Great Indoors, which was on CBS. I'd like to play the promo for a certain episode. And I think the viewers of the show will understand why as soon as I start playing it. So here's a promo for episode 20 of The Great Indoors. Check it out.
This Tuesday.
Give me the heartbreaker.
After their breakups, can they rekindle the magic?
No magic. Magic is a gimmick. You're a cool guy.
I have a dove in my pants.
That's a big no.
I didn't have sex for the last 4 months of my marriage.
Release the dove.
New The Great Indoors Thursday.
So did the writers know that you had been dabbling in magic?
Yeah, the writers knew I was a magician. So I was like, so, and then in that episode as well, I get to do some random tricks, which was funny. Like I pull a hot dog out of my hat or something like that to add my bar. So it was a lot of fun that I get to incorporate the magic into the show.
That's amazing.
And then I actually had another episode when I'm in a straitjacket. And yeah, so I did a couple episodes where I was also a magician. Yeah,
That's
it was
fantastic.
fun.
Although it's definitely one of those double-edged swords where you're like, I'm so glad you're incorporating magic. Although we could see what you think of magic based on the writing of the script.
Exactly right. Exactly.
But that's awesome. I mean, I guess you, in addition to acting and magic, you also have an intense comedy background. I know you studied with the Groundlings as well.
Yeah.
And you did stand up. What was your stand up like?
Well, I did a lot of characters. So one of the things I opened up for my sister. I went on tour with my sister when she was doing her tour, and so I would be her opening act. And I did a lot of irreverent characters, which I probably could not get away with today. I did a deaf homosexual, which you could not do that today. And it actually made it to TV. It was on the sketch comedy show I did years ago. But there was a lot of edgy comedy, a lot of characters, basically, because I'm an actor and I created I'm really good at doing things that are different than myself. So I got to do stand up, and that helped me get the audition for the sketch comedy show, which got me the show, which got me this, and so everything is like a thing, a pattern.
Yeah, I feel like that's with every great career. It's so obvious in hindsight how it all works, but going through it, you never know. Oh, don't worry, if you do this character, it's going to lead to this thing, and then 4 steps later, you'll be on TV.
Exactly.
And one of the things in the CBS bio, I believe it's one of your characters, was Incognito the magician.
Yes. So I was inspired by Valentine, actually, and Valentine was, he was kind of a bad magician. Kind of, but he was this very silly, bad magician. So I made Incognito, which is an offshoot of Crazy Eyes type, where I am an ex-con from that does magic. You know, the wonderful word. I like the Harry Potter book so much, I decided to do the magic. You know what I'm saying? And so I would come out and I would have as a furlough program, have a guy walk me out in handcuffs and then get out of the handcuffs. And then I can make a dove appear out of thin air. And I'd be like this, Dove soap, motherfucker, you know.
Right.
So I mean, it's really, really bad magic. But and then I threaten you if you didn't like my magic. Like, you know, that's my magic move. You don't do that, my man in the back's gonna shank you. So he's a prison magician, Incognito.
I love that he's a prison magician, but the only trick he can't do is escape.
Exactly. Well, he can escape just about anything, you know, except for the clutches of yeah.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, did you did the magic work? Was it one of those things where secretly
so the last trick I do is actual magic. You know, I have a blank deck and I have them pick a card, thinking that I'm gonna say it's a blank card, and like, no, it's not. I'm like, what the heck? And then they actually picked a king, and then I said, you don't think I can do magic? This and then I pull off my thing, and on the back is the card, and I'm like, you know what this is? They say magic wand. I said, no, it's a stick. I'm gonna beat your ass if you don't like my magic. So he's a very threatening magician.
Is Incognito the magician retired, or might he come back?
I did it last night, as a matter of fact, for the Groundlings Christmas show. Yeah,
oh, that's so cool.
And I've done the Improv and Comedy Store, and I've done a whole bunch of different places. But I haven't really, I never really took it on the road or did anything with it. So we'll see. It's always in the back of my head. Like, I want to do a cartoon about him, and we'll see. You know, I got so many things going on. I'm just trying to keep it straight. But yeah, so that was one of my I mean, I can do obviously a regular show, but Incognito is a funny. You know what it's like to have comedy slash or comedy with magic, as opposed to magic with comedy.
100%. Yeah, that's always my sales pitch. I always tell people I'm a comedian with magic. It's about the original jokes and the humor, and then finding tricks that enhance that, as opposed to sort of the reverse of that.
Exactly. So that was Incognito. It was kind of a thing that I wanted to do stand up again as a character, and then also like I would pull a what perchance this is. I have an empty chapeau. That's Italian for hat, you ignorant motherfucker. You're like, what would perchance would a magician pull? A rabbit or a hare? How about a whole bunch of hair? Like I got a wig. Whole bunch of hair. I mean, like really dumb, you know, bad magic. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
No, that sounds amazing. I mean, when I lecture, I always say magician who does magic tricks is not a character. So it's refreshing when somebody has an actual character.
Exactly.
It can't help the original when it's something nobody has seen before.
Right.
And
But it's a lot of fun.
You know, like in terms of you have such an intense comedy, acting, improv background, what tips would you give to magicians? Because you obviously seen a lot of magic as well. What from those worlds do you think that you can bring, or we should other magicians bring into the magic world?
Well, I was working with a younger magician, and I had him show me his stuff, and he was so concentrated on the trick and the handling of his cards and everything that he was forgetting that he's interacting, and it's part of a show. This should be almost like when you're driving. When you first learn how to drive, you have 10 and 2. You're looking at your mirror. When's the last time you adjusted your mirror? You know what I mean? You adjust your mirror 10 and 2, and you're driving, trying to drive like this. And now you drive eating a sandwich and like this, and you're not even looking at anything because you're so used to it. It's incorporated into who you are. So it's almost the same thing with magic. The card handling or whatever you're doing, you have sort of practiced it so much that you're not worried about if it's going to fit. You know, you're not concentrating so much on it, where you can just have more interaction with the person and being more comfortable. The more you're in charge of your mechanics, the easier your presentation will be, because you're not worried so much about it, and you can actually show your personality. So from being a performer that became a magician, as opposed to a magician who learned how to perform, I've been able to, it's been a little easier for me to do the show aspect, where the technical aspect is the part that, you know, would be more challenging for me. So yeah, I would tell someone, you know, to really concentrate on, first of all, figure out who you are. Before you're a magician, who are you? Are you like Rob Zabrecki is a odd looking guy, but he's a great magician, but he's incorporated who he is and what character he is into his magic, and no one else is like him. So the more that you find out who you are as a person and what you can contribute, the more that you can have your own niche of what type of magician you are. Some people are very mystical. Some people are really funny. Some people are scam artists. That's their whole thing. Like Richard Turner and what's his name with the pool. Trying to scam people. So finding out who you are first before you try to figure out how you're going to present it. I would say young magicians, know your stuff, but also know who you are so you can present it in a way that's unique to unique to yourself.
Yeah, I always find that so interesting. I think the performers who come into magic with other skills or coming from another perspective usually are realize the important things first. Like it wasn't until I approached magic as a comedian that I realized, it's not about the tricks. It's about coming up with unique ideas, talking about who you are, creating actual unique art. The rhyme in the lecture is it true? Is it new? Is it you? And making sure it satisfies all those things. But I think that's fantastic advice. Christopher Smith wrote excellent advice about practice until it's natural. Eddie John, late to the show, but loving it. Hello, Eddie.
Oh, thanks, Eddie.
That's very nice. One of the things that I saw online I loved is you created an original presentation for a card effect in the summer, and I'm going to play that. It's wonderful. So here is a Chris Williams original.
There's a real problem in America. I keep hearing people say over and over and over again that all lives matter. They keep saying that all lives matter. Don't they understand? That's racism. And no matter how you mix it up across the country, people in the South are saying all lives matter. In the North, they're saying all lives matter. Even in the Midwest, people are saying all lives matter. But they have to understand, that's racism. And racism is all over the country, in the South, in the North, and even in the Midwest. So if you keep hearing people say all lives matter, all lives matter, all lives matter over and over and over again, you have to understand all lives can't matter. That's racism, and not until Black Lives Matter.
That's a wonderful handling, a wonderful routine, a wonderful message. Take me back to that moment of when did you come up with it? When did you decide to post it? It's awesome.
So this and that, as I said, that was one of my tricks that I did for my entrance to the Academy of Magical Arts. And it's one of my favorite illusions just because I learned it off of, I saw someone do it and I was like, oh, that was one of my signature things. Like, oh, that's the trick. You see a trick done and you're like, oh, I got to learn that trick right there. So I carry it with me. I do it all the time. And then I literally was lying in, it was April, May. We're in the middle of COVID, in the middle of everything going down, in the middle of the unrest, the demonstrations, so many different things going on. And I literally had a dream and I woke up and I'm like, I need to do something, at least express myself in a way where it's edutainment to a certain extent, which is educational entertainment. And I was like, oh, I know what I could do. Obviously saving it for the save the best for last. Oh, but saving it where I could do it over and over and over again, but yet have a message. So I taped it and I held on to it because I wasn't exactly sure when I wanted to show it or to drop it. And I think it just came to a point when I'm like, you know what, I need to at least show this. And I showed a couple other people beforehand at the Magic Apple in the Magic Shop, Brent Garris up here. And so I showed him and he's like, oh, you need to post that. And, from my other friends, my magician friends, I was like, what do you think of this? Because, as a performer, an actor, someone who's known, who's done work before, I'd like to be really specific and really not careful, but thoughtful in my presentation of racial things and the state of our country today. There's so much tension, there's so much hate, and so much things going on, and there's so many misunderstandings that are going on in the country today that I just wanted to express myself in a way that would be entertaining, yet also carry a message with it. So I thought it was an important thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And it was weird. I made this point before, but there's lots of political comedians, very few political magicians.
Exactly.
And I wonder why that is.
Right. Well, I was actually, interestingly enough, I was going to take that and become like an incognito, but shift it over in terms of someone who is a Black Power, an activist doing magic through, and on the edge of comedy and statements and pure magic. So something in the works, something I'm thinking about. There's so many things going on. So yeah, but I think it's important that as a performer to, as I said, know who you are. That's an extension. My trick is an extension of me and what I think and how I feel. Just because it's magic does not mean it's separate from the individual. Your magic should be a part of an expression of, I feel like it should be an expression of who you are. As I said, Andrew Goldenhirsch did like 3 tricks, but he pulls a rabbit out of his hair. And he has his long locks and really bushy hair, and he pulled this black rabbit out of his hair, and I was like, that's so perfect for, like, I couldn't do that. But it's an expression of who he is, and it's a brilliant trick. So as I said,
well, besides for the character part, I think either one of us could do it because we don't have that amount of hair.
Exactly, but it should be an extension of who you are. I feel, and so I like to do some comedy. So usually my regular magic show involves obviously comedic things in my patter, but not strictly comedy or strictly like I want to because a lot of magicians get caught up in the fact that I'm going to either. There's haughty magicians. It's really interesting. There's really haughty magicians who are like, I'm so good, let me show you what I can do. And that to me has never been really appealing because it's off-putting because you're like, I know you can do it. I know you're great, but you're not connecting with me, and then
also, the audience knows that you're not a wizard. Like when you come out there, like, look at my powers. I'm like,
exactly.
We know you live with your mom. Like, you don't have powers.
Exactly. And I'm a huge fan of Derek Delgadio, a friend of mine, and seeing his storytelling as well as Helder. Helder's show, I just saw the present and the future, and I've seen all of his shows, and the process of telling a story about yourself and using magic as an expression. That to me is the ultimate. And actually, Derek's show is coming out on Hulu in January in and of itself. And if you have a chance to see it, please watch it. It is incredible. I saw it twice in New York and twice in LA. And every time was a different experience. So if you have a chance to watch it, it's coming out on Hulu in January in and of itself.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great message. I mean, I'm always pushing that people need to be more like sushi, where it's 95% of people love them and 5% of people hate them.
Right.
That's better than being just vanilla pudding, where just people kind of like you. It's like why they serve in hospitals.
Right.
Nobody's like, all right, everyone's like, okay, fine, I'll have pudding, but nobody wants to be that magician where they're like, fine.
Exactly.
So I think that trick is a perfect encapsulation of really putting yourself into it and creating something that is a whole that is greater than any sum of its parts. So something that starts to go from just being a trick to being art, so it's fantastic.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And also, I heard just a little rumor that in August you were trying to learn coin tricks and might have struck up a friendship.
Yes, I did actually. So Magic Apple has a Magic Apple Live thing that he does like every week, and he was doing just like you. Started it as like a fun thing in March, and then he ended up doing almost 100 shows of Magic at 11. and Eric Jones was on there, and I saw him on Penn and Teller, and I'd seen him before. As a black magician, for me to see another black magician it's always been, there's a brotherhood of magicians. That's one of the things I love about magic too, is there's a brotherhood where if you're a magician and I know you're a magician, we can share things with each other, as opposed to a layperson that just wants to know how it's done. So when I saw Eric on the on Magic Apple Live, I was writing into the thing. I'm like, oh, and then I missed it. So I DM'd him, and he happened to be in town, and we had dinner, and I'm learning his coin stuff is just amazing. It's just incredible. And he's such a nice man. And actually, as I said, his magic is an extension of who he is. So you can't really hide as a performer. You shouldn't hide behind magic. You should be the magic is a part of you, and you are part of the magic to make the best impression. And he's a perfect example of that. Wonderful guy, and just an incredible manipulator with the coins.
Well, actually, we should ask him himself. Get his side of the story. We have Eric Jones in the building.
That's my
What's going on, boy?
right
How
there.
you doing, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Life is
How you
great,
doing,
man.
Eric?
Thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, man. So he came out and did this wonderful performance on this commercial for Samsung, right? Was it Samsung?
For Microsoft.
I'm sorry.
Duo.
And so he was out there, and we linked up, and we had a great. And he had another young magician that was in Eric Blackwell. He was in the picture with us. We had just a nice conclave of 3 black men magicians that you do not get. It's a rare occurrence when you can have people who not only understand what it takes to be a magician, but what it takes to be a black man, and what it takes to be a black man as a magician. So there's so many levels. And then I got his. He gifted me with his DVDs, and I'm looking at him going, wow, I can't do. Wow, geez. Like, okay, I'll try that, but it's like the work he's put. You're just an incredible man, Eric. I'm a big fan as well as a friend.
If Eric handed me DVDs, I think my first question would be, how do I play these things? It's 2020, Eric. Hand him a download.
That's what we do next. I need to talk to illusionists.
Exactly.
But let's talk about that for a second. I feel like there's magic is a lot of straight white men. Why is it not diverse, and how do we fix that?
Is that for you, Chris, or is that for me?
For both of you.
Well, one of the things that I always think about is representation matters. And when we look out into the world, we still have this really weird idea of what a magician should look like. You still think about the top hat, the tails, pulling a rabbit out of a hat. And I think once the world sees more diversity, more women, more people of color, people from the LGBTQ community, we'll start to be able to influence the next generations, see more inclusion, more diversity. And I think that'll change the dynamic. That'll change the entire perspective, the entire world, really, of magic. And I think that's what we need.
As a member of the Academy, I totally agree with you. As a member of the Academy, one of the first things that I looked forward to by being a member at the castle, there is a library. And you, as a magician's member, you can go in the library and you can look up any trick. You can look up the books. You can take them out. You can read. You can talk to other magicians. But one of my first things was, where are the black magicians? So I asked Bill Goodwin, I was like, do you have any books on black magicians? He's like, I've got like this. It was like Conjurers, something, whatever. It's like this book and this. And I was like, oh. And then I came across the fact that a lot of people don't know that the first American-born magician was a black man, Richard Potter. In 1783, he was born. And I'm actually writing something right now to try to tell that story. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. So I'll be consulting Eric on stuff and incorporating a story that is just like Oprah is not a talk show host. Richard Potter wasn't just a magician. He was a black man who magic was his, and ventriloquism was his job. So I think it's really important, as they said, to see different people as an extension of who you are, as your personality. Your magic should be part of who you are, and if you are if I'm a black man, I should be, doing things that are representative of who Chris is.
I like that. And also, I think we may have talked about it, Chris, but the IBMA, the International Association of Black Magical Entertainers, I just see that Jeffrey Allen, there we go. Jeffrey Allen just mentioned it as well, because if there happen to be any other Black magical entertainers and you haven't heard of it, it's a great organization, similar to the SAM, the IBM, and it gives us a little bit more history about who we are. So that we can help change the narrative of what a magician looks like. Like when I perform, I'm in this, a t-shirt, hoodie, jeans, because this is who I am, because magic isn't what I do, it's who I am. So I don't want to do anything that feels disingenuous, if that's the correct word. I want it to feel as organic as possible. There's an old saying, I forgot who said it, maybe Robert Houdin, I don't know, or someone who said, a magician is an actor playing the part of a magician. I'm paraphrasing. I get that, but I don't want to just be an actor. I am magic.
Right.
I exude magic from my personality. I don't. The only difference is I know the script, I know the lines, and I'm helping guide my audience through that process to give them a moment of astonishment that they can't get anywhere else. And I think the more of us that realize that, regardless of your ethnic background, race, religion, creed, the better. And the points that you guys have given about being genuine, understanding that magic is more about just the illusion, but the illusion behind the illusion, the comedy, the acting, the psychology that goes in it. Once you understand those points, that's going to make the magic stronger regardless.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. And if you play Richard Potter, you would be a magician / actor playing an actor who's also playing the part of a magician. It'd be a very complicated book.
Who's actually playing the role of the writer, trying to write as Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Exactly.
And it is great. I mean, there's a great documentary. I think it's called The Heart and Soul of Magic, that Ice McDonald is in. That is fantastic.
I think it's called Silent Masters.
Yeah, right.
Something along those lines.
I'll look it up right now because it's fantastic. And it goes through the history of Black magicians. Cryo Masters: The History and Relevance of the Black Magical Artist. It's available on Amazon for free. Anybody can watch it. If you have Amazon Prime, you have this movie. Cryo Masters: The History and Relevance of the Black Magical Artist. So
after you watch Upload.
It's really, really good. Yeah, there we go. Jeffrey Allen.
I'm filming the second season. I leave in 2 weeks to go to Vancouver, where I have to quarantine in a hotel room for 2 weeks. So guess who's gonna be writing Richard Potter?
Yeah. I was gonna say you're gonna. That's the closest experience you'll have to jail. That feels very prison-like. Being stuck in a tiny room for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Push-ups and jump roping and ordering in. Yeah.
But then afterwards, Canada's numbers are lower. So afterwards, are you a little bit freer than you would be in LA?
They test me 3 times before I even go to Canada, and then I get right to Canada and go into the hotel room for 2 weeks, and then I'll have 3 or 4 days to wardrobe fitting, and then I'll be shooting for 3 weeks. So not much freedom, but a little bit. Once you're quarantined, and Canada's they're really tight on keeping stuff down. So once I prove myself that I'm healthy, so it'll be good. Nice to film out there. And
I obviously don't want to spoil anything on the show, but do we find out he likes magic? Is that going to happen?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, the show is magic too, so there's a lot of magic in the show.
I guess if you do magic, because for those who haven't seen Upload, though again, it's on Amazon Prime, it's fantastic. There's a virtual world. Doing magic in a virtual world feels hard because you could somebody tried to book me for a virtual reality show, and I was like, anything can happen in virtual reality. There are no rules. I can just float the whole time.
It's really interesting. Also, I was talking the other day how magicians have had to adapt with the times. So having a Zoom performance, you usually do corporate, Eric, more about this, but having to change your strategy on not being able to be right in front of somebody, but now doing it from a distance or doing it on Zoom, it's a whole different skill set.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a completely different medium. And I know, Eric, we were talking about this earlier, but it's actually pretty great.
I've got to be honest with you. You know, I was telling Harrison before, you know, I was traveling 200 days a year, schlepping around doing magic shows, and I was getting burned out. And then the pandemic happened, and I started doing Zoom shows, and I never have to leave my living room. It's a godsend, you know, to be able to earn a living and being able to work from home. You know, well, you know, I don't want the pandemic to continue, but if we give me another 6 months, I'm cool with it.
Don't rub it in. Chris is going to have to be quarantined for 2 weeks while you're doing your virtual shows.
Exactly.
Was there anything that surprised you about the other? What was like was there any fun facts that you discovered about each other when you hung out?
That we have the same barber?
Yeah. We just had a nice dinner. It was a really good food, and there's nothing better than having good food and good conversation. So
he introduced me to some really good artisan pizza, and we had some really good wine. I can't remember what it was. What did we have?
That's how you
at Mozza, Nancy Silverton's Mozza restaurant. Yeah, Mozza Pizzeria. Can't beat it. Can't beat it.
That's amazing. And Eric, before I let you go, because this hour has flown by. Anything else that you like to share? And also, I want to make sure we plug you too. We have your Twitter and Instagram, Eric Jones Magic. That's both Twitter and Instagram at Eric Jones Magic. Chris Williams, make sure you have an underscore in the Twitter and a dot in between the Chris and the Williams. He wants you to really work for it.
There's a lot of Chris Williams out there.
Was Joe Smith taken?
I know. I do have Incognito though on my with a K on my Twitter. So
you know what we need to do? We need to get an MF for Jones and an Incognito Magic Show tour going on.
That'd probably be fun. That'd be good.
Oh, and you guys are both, you're already getting offers. Jeffrey Allen said in your travels, you're always welcome for a Magician's Only tour of the American Museum of Magic in Marshall, Michigan. There you go.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, let us know if there's any Richard Potter stuff there. That would be awesome. Yeah, Eric, anything you want to plug or share before we let you go?
No, guys, I'm just doing a lot of virtual shows. I'm really enjoying them. Just finished, just before I came on to this spot to be a special guest, I just finished doing another virtual show for Amazon. You know, and we did a fundraiser. The fundraiser that I chose was the American Diabetes Association because I happen to be diabetic. But it was a great time. I was there with Anna de Guzman and Alex Boyce. We raised a lot of money for 3 charities and made Amazon a lot of money. So,
am I the only one on this broadcast that has not been on Amazon? What's happening? I'm going to get this show on Amazon. That's what we'll do.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Eric, thank you so much for joining. I really, really appreciate it. One more time, Eric Jones Magic on Twitter and Instagram. Follow him, buy his products. Fantastic magician. Eric, everybody.
Awesome, guys. Take it easy.
Good seeing you.
Eric Jones Magic.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's so cool. Thank you, man.
Oh, my pleasure. And Eric is amazing. And also well hydrated. But we're rounding the corner towards the end of the show. So if you have questions for Chris, make sure you put them in the comments. It's on my right, but it's probably below this if you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook. So if you have any questions, put those in the comments below. And while those start to filter in, Chris, do you have? I mean, I know this is very hard to choose. Is there any role that stands out as your favorite, or is that something? Is that a thing that actors don't do? Is say what their favorite role was?
Well, they're like children. Any job that I get paid, that's my favorite role. But I do like Dodgeball. I was in Dodgeball. That was a fun movie to be in. From the beginning, I did the table read because I did Crazy Eyes Killer. They had me come in to do the original table read for Dodgeball with Vince Vaughn and Ben Stiller and Justin Long. So I got to read it. And then almost by default, I got the role because I just kept reading it over and over and over and auditioning people. So that was a great thing. World's Fastest Indian with Anthony Hopkins was incredible. I did a small movie called Swedish Auto with Lucas Haas that I loved my character. I played a real asshole, and that was fun. And and Curb. I mean, Curb is, gotten me so many things, and it's opened so many doors for me, and it's brought so much joy to people. Like when I get stopped, I've been stopped all over the world because and Hoover, of course, the Silicon. But I've gotten stopped all over the world because of Crazy Eyes and Hoover. So it's really nice to see when your work actually translates to people really enjoying it and remembering it and throwing lines at me, and it's been a wonderful experiences.
Oh, they're all, and honestly, it's also cool to see that just the range. Every character is so tremendously different. And Upload is pretty serious. I mean, is that?
Well, I actually when I auditioned for it, I thought it was a drama.
Yeah.
Because all my things, I'm dying of vape lung. There you go, and he was supposed to be 65. So when I went at the audition, I was like,
65. I'll
I put like
you
bad makeup on, like I'm dying, and I went in for it, and I'm like, I didn't get it. They go, you got it. I said, I got, okay, well, I got it, and then obviously adjusted the role, but everything that I have is a straight dramatic small scene, which is so nice for me to be able to express that side of me within a comedy. If I need to do the comedy, I can come out with the comedy, but it's a really wonderful role, and it's such a unique type of show where, it's so many different tones and voices in the show that you can't really nail it as a comedy or a drama or slapstick or anything. So it's great to be part of.
And do you approach, because I think this applies to magic as well, when you're approaching a comedy role versus a serious role, because there are some magicians who sort of, some are comedy, some are serious. Is there a difference in approach, or is it always from the same sort of place?
It's got to come from the same place of honesty, really. I mean, comedy is basically timing, or it's timing. Timing. So comedy is more timing and adjusting and pushing when you need to push. And drama for me is just very as simple as possible, simple and truthful and straightforward as possible. So I approached whatever the character is, because every character has drama in it and every character has comedy in it. You just have to find where it fits in.
And somebody in the comments is asking, what's your favorite magic trick? That's a simple one.
This and that. I mean, I love this and that. I mean, that's just my, I do it all the time. I do 2 bills to 1 bill, and the hundies, those are whatever. But yeah, I think this and that it definitely is my favorite.
That's a fantastic effect. And your routine with it, as we showed already, is wonderful. And our final question, the question we end every interview with, we ask every guest. You're the 35th person to answer it. Can't believe.
Oh, thank you for having me as the last guest of the year. That is a great
finale.
honor.
You're rounding up 2020. So we always ask, because there are young performers watching, and you've already given incredible advice. But is there any other advice you'd have for a young performer or entertainer who's watching it and wants to pursue this crazy life in the arts?
Know that if you want to make money at it and you want to be professional at it, it's going to be difficult. It's a hard road. It is not easy. Nothing is easy in life. But if you want to be a doctor, you go to college, you go to law, you go to med school. There's a linear path. You want to be a lawyer, law school, this and the other. To be a performer, there is no linear path. An overnight sensation is 10 years, they say. And all the work that shows up on screen or that shows up performance-wise, you don't even look at. It's like an iceberg. You don't even look at all the hours that you've spent honing your craft, getting better, trying new things. I would also say try things. Maybe try as many different things as you can, and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you're going to fail. As a stand-up comedian, you go up, you do the same gig, same thing you did last week, and people are responding to it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, but stay true to yourself and stay true to what you believe is good. If you think your thing is good, keep honing it. But as a professional, it is not easy to be a professional magician, professional performer, period. But you gotta be open. You gotta be open, and you gotta want it, and you gotta not think of the performance aspect and think of the fruit. You can't think of the fruit. You got to think of watering and feeding and let it grow so it can have the flowers. The flowers are a bonus. That's what I say when I do a show or I'm working on set. That's the fun part. I mean, it's the work part is getting the audition and getting the thing and getting the role and all that, and learning your lines and everything. And just like with Anthony Hopkins says, I was like, what advice would you give me? He's like, know your lines and say them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Well, that makes complete sense.
Right. That's a fantastic note to end on. Chris, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I really, really, really appreciate it. There's been people who have tuned in from literally all over the world. So thank you guys for watching and commenting along. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime. And at Chris Williams _ for Twitter. For Instagram, it's at Chris.Williams_.
Exactly.
So make sure if you go to Instagram, there's a dot between the Chris and the Williams. On Twitter, it's just Chris Williams _ make sure you follow him on both. Incognito is on Twitter as well, so make sure you follow that. Spelled with a K. Thank you so much for joining. Stay safe, stay well, safe travels, and
happy holidays to you.
Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. I just said Happy Christmas. And that's the Jewish thing I think I've ever said. Merry Christmas.
And as Smokey Robinson would say, Happy Chanukah.
That's right.
Did you see
for everybody on the 7th night?
Did you see Smokey Robinson when he said that in his cameo? I'll send it to you.
Yes,
he says happy. He says I don't know what Chanukah is, but Happy Chanukah.
I'll take it. Smokey can't lose in my book. But Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy all of the holidays. Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And that is the last episode of 2020 of Who Books That. A huge thanks to Chris Williams, as well as to our surprise guest, Eric Jones. Make sure you follow them on Instagram and on Twitter, at Chris Williams _ Twitter, and Eric Jones Magic Twitter and Instagram. So make sure you check that out. A huge thanks to everyone who has made this show possible. That animated thing you see at the beginning is Benjamin Budzak. So make sure you follow him. He has great products out on the Magic Market. A huge thanks to IBM President Alexander who made this show happen, and a current president, Stephen Bergazzi, has also been a huge supporter of the show. Ryan Piling, everybody at the IBM who has been so supportive in letting the show happen and grow. Obviously, to everybody who's watching right now, thank you so much. This is starting to sound like an Academy Award speech, but I am hugely grateful to everybody, all the magicians who have appeared on the show, over 100 incredible magicians from all around the world. Make sure you join. There you go, magician.org/join-the-IBM/join. Make sure you join the IBM and support them. If you're already a member, renew your membership. It's a fantastic organization, and you should definitely be a part of it. We will be back January 2021, so stay tuned. I'm seeing a bunch of comments. Eddie Jock saying, thank you for always entertaining us. My pleasure. Thank you for watching. Christopher Smith saying, excellent, thanks. We have prayer hands. We have Ken Weber applauding. Thank you for tuning in. Adam Goff saying, where's this live other than YouTube? This show is available on whobooks.com. Every episode, as soon as it airs, goes on whobooks.com. It's also available as a podcast. So go to whobooks.com. Please leave a review. A 5-star review would be amazing. It really goes a long way to spreading the word about this show. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody, has been 2020 episode 35 of Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum, guest Chris Williams. Unbelievable. Thank you guys so much. Things are still coming in. We really, really appreciate it. That's it. There's the theme song that I'm definitely not just singing while this graphic is over me. It's definitely pre-recorded, and it's the same every time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of 2020. Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum? Harrison Greenbaum, he's singing the theme song. He's not just doing it live right now. Presented by the IBM.